So today we're talking to Shelly Park, Chief Executive of Lifeblood. Thank you for doing this interview, Shelly. It's always great to talk. And you've been CEO now for, nearly 4.5 years, I think.
Correct.
In that organisation. So why don't we start with you telling us what the core purpose of Lifeblood is?
Thanks, Kevin. Lifeblood is all about life-giving blood, plasma, transplantation and biological products for world health leading outcomes. We are an organisation that has the privilege to collect and distribute people's blood to actually help make the products that we need to make, whether that be taking their plasma or their red cells, or sometimes we are actually taking milk from those mums within their first year after they've given birth, so they can actually help other premature, vulnerable babies. So we facilitate a lot of donation of tissues, organs, breast milk, as I've just said, and other life-saving products. And last year alone, we delivered over 1 million products out to the nation. We collected over 1.4 million blood donations. We delivered 700 tonnes of plasma to CSL Behring so that they could actually make things like flu vaccinations, IgG, all of the different products. And we distributed 1,150 bottles of milk so that the premature babies in both South Australia and New South Wales, where we have those contracts, could actually get the milk that they need. And luckily, we've now secured a contract in Townsville as well, so that milk and the milk products will be going further. So it's an organisation that's such a privilege to lead.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Wow, it's impressive. So going forward, do you have plans to build even more on that amazing base?
Look, that will always be our core. So the way we describe that at Lifeblood is that that's our spine. And I think that's really important that we never take our eyes off that. We're currently exploring and doing a pilot with fecal microbiota. So there are other things where we see that we have this expertise and specialty that we will explore, but that remains our absolute core. And we are always just wanting to contribute further to the health of Australians.
And how, what would be Lifeblood's reputation internationally then, with what all those things that have been done?
Yeah, that's such a great question. We are really, really privileged to be amongst the leaders with the safest supplies of all of those products. When we benchmark from a manufacturing perspective, from a collection perspective, and from an outcomes perspective, we have amongst the safest and most secure products in the world. We're often looked at to guide and help other countries internationally, and we also partner through some of our international networks to ensure that we actually keep stretching ourselves to become better and better as things evolve through research and other matters.
Yeah, fantastic. We live in interesting times, Shelly.
We sure do.
How has that impacted on Lifeblood?
Oh, look, we've had to change substantially. We've had to move quickly. We've had to find new ways of not only living, because each and every one of us within Australia, globally really, are finding new ways of living and new ways of working. We were talking a lot as an organisation about how we were going to become more agile, and there is no doubt that the movements of the pandemic and of what's happened in the last month, we have moved quick and fast, and we are now incredibly agile. We've found new ways of working. We have got additional measures to ensure that we continue to deliver the products that we need and collect the collections that we have. We are in a highly regulated environment, as you can imagine, but we've also moved forward so that we can be even more secure. So we've got additional measures in place in our donor centres, for example, taking people's temperatures when they're coming in to ensure their wellness and coming into a wellness centre. We are taking the public health advice and applying it into our environment. We are changing blood donation rules rapidly in terms of the pandemic. We, over a third of our organisation are now working from home. So we are adapting as an organisation, like many other organisations, as to how we do that. We're seeing our do not attends increase, so we're up from around about 800 a month to 900 a month. So we're having to move quickly and work quite differently in relation to things like that. So I think we've had to respond incredibly quickly, and I couldn't be prouder of how we've done that.
No, I can imagine. Well, an organisation with such a critical role in society, to be able to adapt and be nimble in that whole process is impressive, and even more important than ever, really. So
yeah, absolutely.
So where will the organisation be in 12 months, do you think?
I think it's too early to say and to call where we'll be. What I do know is, like everywhere else, we will be very different to what we are today. I think we cannot go through a pandemic such as this and stay exactly the same as what we are. I think we will continue to radically and rapidly change. We've had to do that with our operating models. We've had to test our systems and processes, and I think it's really important that we take those unprecedented learnings and take those opportunities to learn from those major innovations that we put in place, the large-scale remote and virtual working practices, and we need to look at how and where we should embed them into our models going forward. We need to keep that resilience that we have come through the last month of as an organisation and develop that for the betterment of the greater contribution to healthcare. We've seen some fragility across our supply chain, and we don't know in 12 months' time what that will look like. So we'll have to keep learning from that and responding in ways that we need to. And a great example of that has been that we've had some real challenges moving blood around the country with the change in the air transportation. We've had to look at doing things quite differently, and we've identified quite unique and dynamic solutions which may positively influence our collections network in the future. We're needing to adapt some of our collection centres, and whether or not that stays into the future or not, only time's going to tell. So as I said, I think it's too early to tell what Lifeblood will look like in 12 months' time. But one thing that I know is that the generosity of Australians, and I have been so inspired by how incredibly generous in these really fragile times they've continued to be through their donations, and that will continue. I think it's how we adapt as an organisation and what we look like in 12 months' time that will evolve. And we've created a forward-looking team to actually help us prepare for that, so that as that comes through, we are more and more prepared to create our new normal. I have a really firm belief that normal is not going to look like, for most things in life, what they looked like 2 months ago. I think we're going to see a new normal for quite some time to come.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think organisations that can adapt and have the agility to move and assess what the right way forward is will be those that survive and actually prosper. It's interesting, in times of crisis, you get some amazing examples of leadership that occurs, and sometimes that comes out of nowhere. You sort of think, wow, that person hasn't necessarily had a leadership role, but they're actually demonstrating it, and they could be working in a factory or anywhere. And so have you seen examples of people just stepping up and providing some amazing leadership for the organisation, and also for people who are part of the whole team?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we have got, I'm going to use the term, buckets of examples of this. I've been so inspired by how people have stepped up and the solutions that they're finding. And I've seen it from our leadership. Our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jo Pink, and all of her team have so quickly responded and advised in the fast-moving times that we had very early in the pandemic to ensure that our staff and our blood supply stayed safe, our milk supply stayed safe, our ICT teams, the way that they worked together and the leadership that came through, every single person coming up with the ideas as to how we could fast-pace move our organisation to a 1/3 work from home, and how we could support that, how that could go forward, and the rapid movement of people in that. The ideas that our people on our manufacturing lines at our front line of donor services have come up to help us to ensure that we can adapt and be what we've been. I think, it's been truly outstanding just seeing how each of our people do that, whilst they're also facing the human challenges of what the pandemic means for them. For some of our people, their partners have lost their jobs. For some of our people, they live with people who are the most vulnerable in the community, and there's that anxiety and that worry that comes underneath it. And despite that, we're seeing this amazing resilience and leadership of people. I just, I get inspired by what I see each and every day. The leaders, the middle managers who come to our donor services and our manufacturing sites through our transplantation services, and every day, no matter what they're dealing with, they're mobilising and motivating their teams through these uncertain times. The way they're inspiring our donors to keep giving, the way that our National Contact Centre staff are talking with our donors to help them through the anxiety so that they still feel safe to come and donate, because we're so reliant on them. It's just inspiring in every way, and I'm just seeing the leadership come in just in big doses.
Well, as a national organisation, you've also got to be managing the working relationships across states, with the Commonwealth, with national organisations and that as well. So that's a skill to be able to finesse that, that you and the chief executive, but your people have to manage. I guess as long as everyone has the ultimate aim of keeping the nation as healthy as possible in these times, that works. So have you seen would you make any comment about the relationships and the working relationships across the nation?
I think they've been impressive. Sometimes our people have had to work through the different states going at different paces, and I think that's appropriate because we've actually seen different outbreak numbers in different areas. What we've tried to do is we've got a daily comms that we're putting out to our people that unpicks that, so we've got one source of truth. I think, I have personally been really inspired by the leadership of government, by the fast-paced response to keep Australia as safe as it possibly could. What I've seen is the relationships across the states be very supportive of what we've been needing to do as an essential service to ensure that everything that we deliver is there. There is not one time that I've been frustrated through this. We've been able to get cut through when we've needed it. We've got tremendous support from the different governments, the states, everybody that we work with. So we're incredibly lucky and grateful for that.
Yeah, and I think that's what brings people together in a crisis. There might be different priorities and demands, but there is a common cause.
Absolutely.
Literally bring people together, which is fantastic. Shelly, can I finish by switching to a totally different question? You belong to one of our executive learning sets for quite some time.
I have.
So what does being a member of a learning set mean to you? And what have you gotten out of it?
Look, I think it's something that I value greatly. The collegiality through the learning set, the wisdom of others, the bravery of others, because often as a chief executive, sometimes people don't call you on what needs to be called, and yet in a learning set, it's such a safe but challenging environment. I think the connections that we have, you talked earlier, or you asked me earlier about our relationships, how they all were. I think one thing that I have truly valued through the different sets that I've been in, because as you know, I've been in a number of sets now over many years, is the relationships that have grown from that. And it gives you the leverage really to reach out in times of crisis and times of need. I find, and I've used the word inspiration a little bit through this interview, but I find the inspiration of others, when I'm with them and we talk about what we're talking about, I always come away feeling more inspired about what each and every one of us is doing to when I go in. And that doesn't mean I was lacking inspiration when I went in. What it means is that grows and the challenge and the thinking space and the strategy space. I will forever be grateful for everything I've ever got from my learning sets, and I still see them as a key part of going forward.
Yep. So, well, thank you so much. I mean, it's just I've always really appreciated your honesty in sets and your challenging of me as well on occasions. So thank you. I think everyone keeps everyone honest, and I'm amazed sometimes how people who come out of private health and national organisations and state-based organisations share information and strategies as well, and you would think under normal circumstances they wouldn't do this.
Yeah, and I actually think that's part of the real value of a learning set. It's the diversity of thinking and experience that we all bring. And I thank you for, I've been really privileged to have had you now as a facilitator for quite some time. And the relationship that we have with the facilitators and the team members are special, and you can't articulate that until you've experienced it.
Yes, that's true. Shelly, it has been fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much indeed. And it's impressive when you describe Lifeblood, where it's come from, where it is now, what is truly meaningful and core about it as an organisation, and the leadership team you pulled together and what they've done, and just how smart they've been in these times where you really do have to adjust quickly, and just be super smart about where it's going and where the organisation will end up. So thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Privilege is all mine, Kevin. Much appreciated, and all the very best. Keep washing those hands, social distance, and stay safe.
I got all sorts of things here.
Good on you. Lovely to chat. Thanks, Kevin.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.